Hello and welcome to Frozen Synapse 2 Developer Diary number 20. I'm Ian Hardingham, designer and lead programmer on Frozen Synapse 2, and today we're going to look at some artificial intelligence odds and ends, a couple of other minor things I've been adding to the city, and answer your questions in the mailbag. So let's go! We're going to start off with looking at something quite specific today. I spent today and yesterday trying to solve a very particular artificial intelligence problem that has plagued me and Frozen Synapse ever since the first one came out. And that is, broadly, which way should the AI units be facing? It may sound pretty fundamental to everything, and in a lot of ways it is. But if you think about some of the ways in which FS is different to other tactical games, the AI doesn't really know where you are. It needs to predict things, and a lot of different things can happen. In a standard turn-based game, you kind of often know where the enemy is, or at least you're moving out of cover or fog of war to see stuff. But in Frozen Synapse, there's a lot of AIs taking up a position and needing to look somewhere sensible. And if they're not looking somewhere sensible, it looks off to professional players and unprofessional players straight away. So let's go through the problem real quick. This is our guy. He's an assault rifle unit, and let's just put him here. Now, completely free of any context of where any enemies are, where should our friend, the assault rifle guy, be looking? Well, if he has literally no idea where enemies might be coming from, as in it's a dark match and there could be people out here or over here or anywhere, then he's just got to take a position. He's just got to look somewhere. But even with no information where he's looking, not all directions he can look in are equal. Let's bring out the move aim handle. We're not going to be looking at the focus aim element of this today because, as I said before, AI units may well not be using focus aim in the same way as humans, and we're just looking at where the player is looking. This video will be slightly undermined by the fact there's a bit of a bug at the moment where the view cone is wrong when we are selecting a move aim order and not dragging it, but I'm just going to have to get through that. So as you can see, hopefully, even though it's quite small, we have the view cone, and if I aim here, I am looking through one doorway. If I can basically engage someone as they arrive, if it's anywhere in that doorway. If I aim here, I have the right-hand side of that doorway, left-hand side of the door the other way. So I'm covering two entrances, but I will not see an enemy first if they come from the other two corners or from these windows. Again, I can cover all of both windows. That looks pretty good. I can cover the doorway, a window, and half of the third window. But we could probably all agree that this is just inferior to this. We know no one's in this room, and we are covering, in both cases, we are covering all of the doorway and all of the window. But in the second case, we are also covering half of the other window. This is just a better place to be looking. Now, the AI has to get this right, which meant I had to come up with an algorithm which did it better than it was doing it before. Now let's move our friend over here, and let's bring in some context with some enemy units. These green guys just rocked up in the Frozen Synapse vehicle, and suddenly the whole problem of where to look gets both more and in some ways less complicated. With no context, there are lots of different places this guy could be looking. But with those guys there, I don't think he should be looking here. I think he should be looking in this direction. Basically, if we go somewhere like this, he's going to have, if I bring the green guys into view, he's going to have a good view of anywhere the green guys are likely to be in the next turn. If the turns were significantly longer, and he was just staying there for a much longer time, he might want something like this to cover a bit more area. That would definitely be a possibility. So hopefully I haven't bored you rigid, and hopefully you guys have a vague understanding of how this problem is quite an in-depth problem, and I will talk about how I went around fixing it. So I think the most important aspect of this... Oh, I've just deleted my poor friend. Let's bring him back. Most important aspect of this is to understand that the fundamental elements of where to look are these... Well, in this case, these are corners. I guess you would still call somewhere around here a corner. Basically, you need to sweep around, something that a player does all the time, sweep around all of the terrain, depending on whether you're ducked, whether you think your opponent might be ducked, and look at all of the places where there's sort of a break in your line of sight. And those are the valuable spaces. As we noticed, there's no difference between being able to see over here and being able to see over here. It just doesn't help you. Being able to see around this corner and this corner makes a massive difference. So that's what I had to synthesize. So basically, I started off and was looking at trying to maximize how far you could see, kind of integrate in all of the angles. But of course, that could well lead to aiming somewhere down here when that's completely inappropriate. So eventually, I came up with a second most fundamental part of this, which is fairly obvious, but was a real pain to implement, which is that the enemy has to be able to get there, and it has to be about where the enemy are going to get first. So actually, when I was implementing this, this was the test location that I used to try and see if I could get the algorithm right. Because we have a pretty ideal view here, which is this. This is covering such a hugely valuable set of real estate in terms of where the enemy are, that this is where we want this guy to be looking at. So I did a lot of jiggery pokery, a lot of maths, a lot of pathfinding. Basically decided to cast 360 rays from my friend here out, find the critical angles, as I called them, these corners, find the places where one angle didn't go very far and the next angle went very far. And then looking at that line down that angle, I said, how quickly can the enemies get to this line? It's significantly quicker there than it is here. And I basically said, let's take as many lines as we can get, including the best one. And that, broadly speaking, is the algorithm. So now, let's see if it actually worked. And there we go. Believe it or not, the thing I just did came up with the ideal answer. Now, I have no idea if that was interesting to you guys at all or not. I'm sure many of you will have experienced the AI in Frozen Synapse 1 looking in very silly places. That should be fixed now. Now, there are lots of other problems with the AI in Frozen Synapse 1, some of which I fixed, some of which I need to fix. But this was a really, really important one. And I will get on to it in a minute. Something else that helps me with this. Now here we are back at the familiar city level, and let's send our strike team over to a local blue sunlight building. Now, as we are arriving with no fanfare, and oh, they actually have an early warning system, which may make this slightly problematic for me, but never mind. So we got there, and we are going to attack. Let's attack. So basically, a lot of the work I've been doing in the last week or so is making these missions that you get when you go to attack people a lot more entertaining and good. I've done such a huge amount of work on the city level, getting all of those systems working really, really well. But it's really important, obviously, that when you actually get a mission, it plays really, really well. And that's what I've been focusing on. Now, these guys, goodness me, a lot of people here, a lot of civilians, not entirely sure what they're doing. We have just a bunch of machine gunners around. Now, I want it to feel different as you get to different buildings. Just randomly scattering units has a real... that doesn't really feel brilliant. It just feels completely random. And what you want is different kind of units put in appropriate situations. Now, this guy is patrolling around the outside border, so it's appropriate for a machine gun or a shotgunner to be doing that. If we had a sniper we don't have here, the snipers would want to be in useful locations. Maybe behind that box, looking out. This work I've done on facing, where it's facing, is going to be put to use for working out exactly where on the map would be the best place to put a sniper or a machine gunner. you have to add in the work of how good somewhere is and how good a direction of facing is, and then you have to work out if there's good cover, etc. And I'm kind of calling that static analysis of the level. The AI obviously goes through something a bit different when it's working out where to put its units. Even though it gets kind of a similar result, trying to do that over the whole level with such a lot of possibilities is going to take a very long time. So it's kind of about trying to make that happen a bit faster as well. So again, the next time I talk to you guys, I'm hoping to show you some very differentiated levels that are all coming out of randomly putting the units that are here, because of all the stuff that's going on in the city, into interesting scenarios. Sometimes you're gonna come to a level and you're gonna find everyone's in one room. Sometimes you're gonna find a couple of flamethrowers here and a lot of people hiding through the trees. It's really, really important that all of these levels feel different. It's not just about the geometry. Obviously, we have some very different feeling levels. We have some airports, for instance. I haven't shown you yet, I don't think. But all the units are really important as well, and they've got to do their job. So yes, that's what's been on my mind this week. It's really in-depth, and it's really super important. Just to finish off this section, you may notice, long-time viewers may notice, that there's a little bit less extraneous fluff in this mission than you might be used to. Previously, most missions not only had the building lot for the place that you're actually at and the roads around it, but also several other lots as well. Maybe there's a car park here, maybe there's an apartment building here. Now, that looked cool, but it was definitely making the levels much more confusing and making them too big in a lot of places. Sometimes you want a really big level, really big complicated level, but kind of the bread and butter missions that you're coming across, this is sort of getting towards a fairly good size. You want to be able to focus on what this specific building is like. You want to have some well-specified entry points. Juggling all of this with how much fidelity there is at the city level, how everything is properly represented, is hard, but getting that right is really the key to everything. I've got one more aspect of this to show you, which I will load up now. Okay, so here is a guest nest, and we have arrived and we are attacking it. Here are our guys, they're in the vehicle, and basically our job is to get in and kill people, or steal something, or do whatever we feel like doing. You guys who've been watching the videos a lot have seen a lot of missions that look like this. These work very well, especially when you arrive and the enemy are unaware and you have a stealth phase before you come out in the open or get noticed and go back to more traditional frozen Synapse. That's really great. You have a lot of ways of planning this stuff. When the enemy are unaware of you, you can deploy anyone on the roads. In fact, in some situations, basically you can do that like this. So to balance out the fact that you're always starting in the vehicle, as long as you're not in enemy sight lines, you can look at the level, you can analyze it, and you can work out where on the roads you want your guys to spawn and go in for an attack. Now this is great. This is really, really fun, and it's really quite a new experience for Frozen Synapse. I really like it. But I'm very keenly aware that this is not always what I am in the mood for. Sometimes I want something that puts me directly into the action faster, without the setup phase, without the thinking about where I'm going to deploy my troops on the roads, how I'm going to get in, etc. I'm very clearly aware that's something that I often feel, and it's very mood based, and I think it's sort of personality based as well. I feel like I've met plenty of FS players who feel similarly to I do, and lots of FS players who would very happily spend 2 hours on every single mission inserting their team in the perfect possible way. So let's look at an alternative. Okay, here we are on the city level. I'm going to send my squad over to this building, which is the one we just looked at. So we send our guys across. And we get there, give orders, attack. Now, this is something that I've added very recently. I think it's got some issues, but it's why I want to talk about it on the video and I want to get your feedback. I've given you several options. Because you've arrived unannounced, they don't know where you are, that you're here just yet until you get out of the vehicle. You have the option of inserting in several different ways. Now, start mission from vehicle is the one we've just seen, and it's the traditional longer form one. I currently have 3 other options. Building entry, which kind of puts you around the edges of the building in a specified way. After breach, which is a very, very classic FS1 style situation, as we call it. The idea being that a different commander has already got your troops into the building and you're taking over at the critical moments. Or sewer entry, which starts your guys in a room that's already inside the building. So I'm just going to show you guys all of these, and then I'm going to talk about it. Let's start off with building entry, because this is sort of the most incremental change from the vehicle. And in future things that I'm showing you, I will cut out the loading time. But right now, we have to sit and watch it to say loading game. There we go. Okay, so, oh dear. Well, we've already got a significant problem, which just goes under fire straight away. That doesn't sound good. Just pretend that hadn't happened, and that the algorithm was working properly and it wasn't putting your units in harm's way. So ignore that guy. Go away. Can I delete you? No, probably not. So very simply, the system has put you on the border. You don't have the ability to move your guys. And it puts you close to the action. This, especially on a level this big, is not especially appropriate. In fact, I may show you the next one on a smaller level. But anyway, you can see that. Okay, now I've gone to a different level to show you the situation, the after breach. This is more appropriate for a big, we call those the boss levels, those larger, more designed levels that tend to be the home bases of a faction. We probably would turn these options off anyway. Anyway, as you can see, this has spawned a very classical Frozen Synapse 1 style situation. These guys are light at the moment because they're actually completely unaware of our presence. All the details are to be worked out, to be honest, but this gives you a vague idea. This gets you into the action much quicker. You're much more likely to face immediate decisions to deal with. And sometimes this is the way I want to play Frozen Synapse. I've looked at a lot of different solutions to this because giving this as a player choice is not completely ideal. I mean, in terms of does it make any sense lore-wise, aesthetically, I think you could find ways of writing around it. I mean, it's not completely obvious or straightforward or ideal, but, I mean, games have to find ways of giving the options that are good for the player and making the player feel like they're meaningful. You know, let me know what you think. I would really love to know what you guys think about this issue. You know, we could easily just go with the from the vehicle missions. They're really, really, really good, and it's not like it takes very long to get going. But I'm just also really aware that these kinds of missions are really good as well. And I've just been struggling to find ways of putting them in naturally. I mean, it doesn't make sense that with some enemy factions, this would be what you were doing. I played around with making it a setting of your squad. And there are elements of this that I might make a setting of a squad. But basically, it's a thing that I've really struggled with throughout the development of Frozen Synapse 2. Not wanting to get rid of these situations because they're really fun. So let me know what you think.